All right, welcome to Quiz the Music Man, episode 3. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to get things accomplished as a musician, whether you're just taking lessons and want to, let me go ahead and adjust my camera, just there we go. Whether you want to just get better as a musician or become a professional or get better as a professional and what to do. So my name's Tony Underwood, and I'm the Music Man, and I write and record and market my own music, Tony Underwood Music. You can find me all over the place on Spotify. I have a website, I have a Facebook page, I have an Instagram, I have a Twitch, I have a Twitter, and I have a YouTube channel. So you can find me on all those things, writing, recording my own music. I also own a music studio where we teach lessons. I have anywhere from 6 to 10 to 12 instructors depending on the time of the year, and we teach lessons. I have a really nice professional studio with lesson rooms. Of course, right now with coronavirus, we're all teaching remote using Zoom and FaceTime and Skype and Duo and all those other things, WhatsApp, and they're working really well. Hopefully we can get back to the one-on-one, but for now it's not bad at all. So I'm also recording this for my YouTube channel. You'll be able to check that out. You can find my blog, podcast on all the main podcast people like Spotify, Apple, Verve. I'm not sure the whole list because I'm just kind of a noob, but we're getting there. So let's talk today about the music industry and what's going on. And I'll tell you, as far as teaching music and taking lessons, it's really going alive and well. I said that our studio has gone to virtual. I own a dance studio as well, right next door. We also teach acting, and we're doing everything virtual over Skype, FaceTime, Zoom, and even the classes seem to be working really well. And I think that's going to be part of the future. I have to be honest that up until now, video lessons really, I didn't think much of them. They're very good for a very few, and for that very few to get something very specific out of it. But it's very tough to really progress in the performing arts unless you have that one-on-one connection. And people don't understand that and realize that. The ratio is about 4 to 1 of teachers to or students to teachers, so one teacher for 4 students. That's not a very big ratio, so we need a lot of teachers. And when you're in the arts, you are a teacher. Everyone you talk to, everyone you help out, you're teaching. And I never realized that because I didn't like to teach. I just wanted to perform, and I got a job at a church and just did my church job. And then I started giving lessons for free because I really didn't think I was good at it. I didn't really think, people would like them. Well, they liked them. And so I did that all through my career as that. And when I left, I actually took a teaching position and giving lessons and did very well. And, later went to another city. I didn't want to poach students and started my own business. And we're here in Central Florida in the Longwood area. And it's going great, and the present is video. And I think once we go back to the one-on-one, we'll definitely use the video as a way to supplement, as a way to enhance, as a way to reach people. And we've even done groups. I've started doing just free open lessons for beginners on Facebook, and I'm going to post them on YouTube as well. And I'll probably do some on, I don't know if I'll do them on Twitch. I don't know what Twitch would care about that. But anyway, I'm doing that as well. So if you're in the area and want to get in on that, go to the Facebook page, the Underwood School. If you're not in the area, go ahead and just look at the live and tell me what you think. What I'm trying to do is get enough people that I'll then go to a interactive form like a Zoom or something, and have a group lesson and be able to interact. But for right now, I think they're okay. They're good for beginners. And they do more than just show you. That's why I've never liked video lessons, because just because somebody else does it doesn't mean anything. And I've had so many people say, well, have you demonstrated this? Are you playing this for them? And I look at them and I say, I understand where you're coming from. But it is not necessary to demonstrate when you're teaching music. Now, I'm going to get a lot of hate mail, and that's okay. Send it in. You're just wrong. And here's why. If you were taking violin lessons and Itzhak Perlman was going to give you some lessons, but let's say he was sick and wouldn't be able to play, would you just say, oh, I'm not taking from him? Renee Fleming is one of the great sopranos, and she teaches. If she were to teach you voice, but she's not going to demonstrate, would you not take those lessons? Maybe, but I don't think so. If John Legend was going to sit down and do a workshop with all your students on how to play music, and he wasn't going to demonstrate, would you not let him do that? Maybe you wouldn't, but I think most people would, because now you see what I mean about demonstrating. And the other thing is, when you demonstrate, sometimes it's a little too much for the student. And I'll never forget, I had twins. I taught guitar and voice to one of them, and or I think it was piano and voice maybe to one, and guitar to another. And they would sing duos all through their life, so they wanted to do that. And they were going to do a duo at school and wanted me to help them and coach them. So we came in, we sat down. Now the one student heard me sing, and I'd sang all kind of stuff from pop to, opera, and the other had never really heard me sing. So we sat down, and as we're going, and we got to the part I was trying to explain to them that some parts have to be big and some should be small, especially if you go up higher in your voice. You want to ease it a little bit, unless you're really trying to belt that out. And I hit a chord and just started the first couple notes of Vesti La Juba from Pagliacci. It's very big sound. And I sang a couple notes and turned, and the one student who had been with me heard me singing and taking lessons, was fine. The other one just had these huge eyes and this expression of, I could just tell I lost her. She would never want to sing for me. She would never want to do. And that was probably a failing as a teacher, but having had the other student, I was much more comfortable doing that. Probably shouldn't have. So that's why demonstrating isn't always the best thing. And it's good to demonstrate sometimes, but it's not necessary. So, but we can still demonstrate over the audio-visual that we're doing, over these Skype and so forth. So we can demonstrate, and it does work out really well. Now, we talked a little bit last time about the state of the music industry as a career, and it's kind of on hold because you're just sitting there. But it's the best time for you unless you're already successful. So if you're starting out, or you have been doing some things little by little, this is the best time for you. You can do Facebook Lives, you can do YouTube Lives, you can do a podcast, you can send email out to your friends and relatives and ask them to tell other people about your Facebook Lives. You can put get a PayPal Me account and put a link as a virtual tip jar. You can sell all your merch. You can just do that and be consistent. Play your music, but also play a lot of cover songs, because if people don't know your music, they're not going to listen to you. So play them some cover songs first, and then throw some of your music in here and there. And then the other thing you can do is to engage people on social media. So if you have nothing, go to similar artists that kind of sound like you or that you sound like. Go to their Instagram or their Facebook or YouTube, and Instagram's probably the best. And have a business Instagram account with your music. So what you're going to do is you're going to look in the things, and when they have a post, and somebody comments. Now, don't not just a like or oh, whoa, that's great. When somebody comments, wow, this really got me through, whatever. You know, if you have that similar feeling, I'm not saying just make stuff up. You really have to be true to your heart. Go in and say, you know, I understand where you're coming from. I once, pulled over the side of the road because this song was playing and it just overwhelmed me. And I was going through X and X, so I really hear you. It's nice to know got a kindred spirit out there, and I really love this artist's music, whoever it is. Boom. Make some engaging comments like that. And spend an hour. I mean, what are you going to do otherwise? Let's face it. Everybody says, how long does it take to learn to play guitar really well? Well, it might take 6-7 months to play a song. It might take several years to get really good. They kind of look at me strange, and I'm like, well, music isn't easy. If it was easy, Beyonce would be making $50 a night singing. She makes $50 million, and because it ain't easy. But I say to them, what were they doing 2 years ago? I mean, what are they, splitting the atom, or saving the whales? I mean, what's going on? Are they discovering new galaxies and stuff? Doing brain surgery. I mean, and even if you are, you can still take a few minutes 3 or 4 times a week and practice your music, because that's all it takes if you practice the right way. We'll get into practicing another time. Let me make sure my thing is still working. Yeah, it's still working. We'll get into that another time. But let's continue on. So it's a great time to be a musician. It's a great time to learn music. Go on YouTube and find some things to get you started. Call up some of your music schools or music teachers and let them do a lesson over FaceTime or something. Don't let this time beat you down, because this is your life. This is all you got, and you're not going to have anything unless you do it. That's the one difference in someone who's successful and happy with their success and those that aren't, is the ones that are happy go out and do it. You don't have to know anything. You can be totally stupid. I tell people, okay, I know zero about this, and I'm a slow learner. So there you go. They don't treat me, they're fine. They show me what I'm supposed to know. They help me out. And we go on from there. So let me give you some tips I've been reading. Let me give you, we talked about Beyonce, but let me spotlight a few musicians. So I'll try to link these, but you can write these down. It's Dawn Beyer, Dawnbeyer. Then there's Zoe Keating, Zoe Keating. Then there's Peter Hollins, Peterhollens. And then there's Scott Bradley, Scottbradlee. He runs Postmodern Jukebox. So Dawn, you've might not have heard of none of these. Maybe some you didn't. I don't think you've heard of Dawn Beyer. She makes 6 figures just doing Facebook Lives. She runs a company called The Real Nashville. She started it all herself. And you can find out about her story better from her. Let me grab a sip here. But I'll briefly tell you, she was a Nashville session musician. She would go play on Broadway, which is the big strip in Nashville where all the tourists go, and other people to go into these clubs and listen to people play music. And she thought it would be her big break. She'd get to go in and play her stuff, and people would love her. Well, the problem is most people, they don't know her music, so they don't want to hear it. They want to hear covers. So she was going in playing, 12 hours, whatever, hoarse, play till she's hoarse, covers, and did that for I don't know how long. And she made tips and all, but, she said she was living in a little cottage out in the woods. It's all she could afford. And when it rained, the rain and mud would come up from the bottom of the flooring. And, I can relate to that, because I can remember when I was a little kid, a time we were in a place where you could look through the cracks in the floor and see the snakes go by and so forth. So that struck me when I read that about her. And then one day she saw Facebook Live, and she wondered what it was, and read about it, said, oh, I can do this, and she just started it. She didn't think about it. She didn't go to get information. She didn't go to get learning. She didn't do nothing. Now, I have to say, coming from a teacher's point of view and someone who liked country music, and I have been around a while, the girl has a cracking good voice. I mean, it's the kind of voice, it's hard to explain if you hear Miley Cyrus sing and then hear her talk. That's the voice you want. It's a very clear, it's a very vibrant, some would say annoying, shrill voice. It's not shrill, but some people find it. It's very much in the face. Hi, I'm Miley Cyrus. And that's what you want. Now, Dawn doesn't have an annoying voice at all. It's a very pretty voice. Not all singers have a pretty voice. She happens to. Plus, it's very clear. And I guess, from playing in Nashville so much, man, she plays great. And I know that because I teach guitar. I'm not that great a guitarist, but I've sure hired a lot of guitarists for professional gigs. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of musicians play, 2 or 3 measures and sound like a guitar god or a drum god or whatever. But they can't get through a flippin' song. And I used to make them play a whole song for me, really simple song. They couldn't do it. Well, that's why some of us don't do that, and that's why others do. Now, I have played through songs as a professional, but I don't do all that. I'm just doing the straight chords, maybe a couple little fills and things, and that's it. But it was always where it was supposed to be. I practiced, made sure I could do it. Dawn is fantastic. She sings, and if you look at her YouTubes, they start off there backwards because she didn't know how to flip the image, and she was right up on her face, and then she was too far away, and she put on scarves and hats and not know what to do. And one guy said she'd never make it unless you put on a bunch of makeup and things. So you just got to go through all that. But she went through all that. She started doing lives almost every day. She got her following. She put the little tip jar on there. And then she was able to start doing concerts and having people sign up for a concert and pay over Facebook. And now she actually has a course. So if you want to learn the course, go look her up and take the course. I would recommend it. And follow what she's doing. She's doing it. And she engages with her people. When they comment, she comments. And it's a real comment. It's not a bunch of garbage. If you're going to do that, you might be successful, but I don't know how to teach you because you have to really want it. And that means you have to be sincere. I'm not saying you can't use a canned comment if you can't think of something, but it has to come from your heart. There's one. Another one is, so she's making good money. Zoe Keating is a cellist, and she has built up a huge following just for herself. And she has lots of plays on Spotify and I think YouTube. And she writes a lot of songs for TV placements and movie placements and commercials. That's a whole nother thing. If you want to find out about that, look up Michael Elsner, E-L-S-N-E-R, and it's called mastermusiclicensing.com. Michael Elsner. And he has a program that I joined, and I'm now finishing up some of my music and getting it ready to start submitting it for placements in television and film and things. But that's what this Zoe Keating does as well, and she's doing very well. Peter Hollins, Peterhollens. Peter Hollins, he does a lot of YouTube and a lot of things. Look him up. And then Scott Bradley, Postmodern Jukebox. They do covers of songs in non-traditional ways. And he's got millions of followers on YouTube. So these people started this all by themselves. They don't have a record company. They don't have, I don't know if they have a manager and agent. They might now, but when they started, they didn't. They did it all themselves, and they have just the tools that you have right now. If you have a phone, you can record all your music right on the phone. And now if it's a fairly recent phone, Now iPhone, you can use GarageBand. I'm familiar with that. I am sure Google has something else for Android. I know there's a recording program similar to GarageBand, because that's what all the people that have Android say. They've had everything iPhones have had 2 years earlier. So, that's not a harsh against Android. I love Android. I just don't have it. I have an iPhone. But I use GarageBand myself on an iPad. I have Pro Tools and all that. But, it doesn't make any sense when Billie Eilish has outsold everybody. And she did it, her and her brother, in her bedroom on a little PC. She didn't have $1,000 mic and all that. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't go and get your music recorded. They practiced and have skills. Some people shouldn't be recording their music. You can literally go in and record your vocals and do stems and send them to a good engineer and let them mix it and then send it to a master. You can buy programs like Isotope Ozone, and for an iPad it's just called Mastering. There's an app that you can master all your stuff. Mixing it, you can send it to Lander and places like that. They'll mix it for you too, and then you just master it and it's done. So these people make 6-7 figures, and they don't have a record contract. They don't have a record deal. They do it all on their own. They have work at it though. They're on daily. They do it daily. Now, so how do they do that? Let me give you some pointers. There's tons of people you can learn this from. If you're interested in that, you can go to, I've promoted them before, rickbarker.com, Adam Ivy, he's on YouTube a lot. Adam Ivy has a big Instagram network. I told you Michael Elsner for that. Graham Cochran, Recording Revolution, YouTube him. He's teach you how to record. You can take a little course, and you can learn a lot from just his videos that are free. Pete Johns, that's all I wanted to mention. Pete Johns does GarageBand on the iPhone, and it's incredible. He really opened up. I had started GarageBand, and then I found him and was watching his videos. It's just really incredible, all the plugins and things that you can do now. And, if you got Pro Tools or what's the one that's, I'll think of it in a minute, Reaper. Reaper's free, and you can give them $60. And you can buy if you buy a digital audio interface like a Focusrite Scarlett or something, they come with free programs. And Pro Tools has a free program you can use. So there's no reason not to be doing this. So let's talk about how you're going to get this done. Well, I've seen many artists, and the one thing they all talk about is that the most important thing to their art is eliminating distractions as far as interruptions. One lady goes so far as to just go off by herself and don't let her family know where she is or anything. And let me talk about that. Distractions and accomplishing things. So distractions, they're bad for accomplishing defined tasks. So that's the bad side. But they're good for creating, for discovering, and inventing. So let me explain a little bit. So there's two types of distractions, the immaterial and busy work. And then the other type is the material that's thought-provoking. So let's go through these. So things like food, eating, especially if you're alone, paying your bills, cleaning the house, being interrupted, social media. Those kind of things are really immaterial as far as it doesn't matter what you eat as long as you eat something. So those are some things you need to really look at and try to eliminate. And if you're making decent money, go ahead and hire somebody to clean your house. Hire somebody to prepare your food. A lot of times you get somebody to come over and cook you something, clean your house, and they're gone. You might want to pay your bills once a week, have a scheduled time, so you don't have to think about it. There are other distractions like TV, stuff like that. If you want to watch TV, if you want to listen to music, go to the gym, schedule those out and keep to that schedule. Just weekly schedule. Monday, go to the gym. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5 o'clock. Or get you some stuff at your home to do it in the same way. If you can afford a cleaner and so forth. If you can't, look at how to make things easier for you. Get in the habit of putting stuff away so there's no cleaning. Dishes, listen, I love either using paper plates or I have these like these Tupperware kind of bowls and things. When I eat something or a plate, I just have a little thing of dishwashing liquid. I squirt it on there and I wash everything. I have one that's kind of a big bowl, so I put the water in that and wash everything out of that. And then when it's through washing, I rinse it all. I set it right beside the counter where it can drain, and then I wash that bowl out. So it takes me less than a minute. Now I have a big family at home, so somebody washes the dishes, but that keeps me where I know exactly where to go to get my stuff. Food. If you eat like fruit, things like that, have canned fruit, have frozen fruit. If you like spaghetti, make spaghetti on Monday and make for 20 people, and then put you some individual bags. It doesn't take as long as you think. Freeze them, and then you've got your food. Make sandwiches, make a schedule. Some people can go out every night. These days you could have it delivered. You might could drive through, you get coupons and say, if you're watching what you spend, get your coupons and go get a 2-for-1 Whopper or whatever, salad, whatever, Chick-fil-A, I don't know, whatever you want. Get your stuff. Pay your bills once a month or look at them once a week, the same time, same day. Don't get into these, what am I going to eat? Have it there. Have it all planned out. Don't get into this, what am I going to wear? Put your clothes in line when you put them back up there. So these are little things you can do. At work or when you're working, you need to make sure you don't get distracted. Tell people, I will be at place A, from 2 o'clock to 8 o'clock tonight. Don't interrupt me. Cut your phone off. Airport mode. Put your phone away. Make some times in the evening or when you're not working that you can look at your phone, because that gives you a little veg out time. Okay, so those are those distractions. And even at work, if people keep interrupting you, just say, listen, I appreciate this, but I don't want to be interrupted when I come in. I don't want any interruptions till after 4. Email me if it's an emergency. Whatever your schedule is. If you need to cloister yourself away, do it. So you can sit and focus on your art and do your stuff. That's kind of how to get things organized. The same way with your other things. When you have something, a defined goal, you've got all your things in place. You've got the tools, the ability, the skills, the understanding, the plan, and the supplies. Then go off and do it until it's finished, or work on it until it's finished. Now, when you're searching for answers, the best thing to do is to do things that are creative. Hiking, walking, sitting and thinking. I ride a motorcycle. You can go surfing, hang gliding, whatever it is, hiking, whatever those things that kind of give you that chance to enter that, what I call a fugue state, which is just a state of sense of self and of being right then, and let creative things flow. And you might be listening to music and watching TV and watching the birds and doing all these different things at that point, because that's when these creative distractions can pull something out of you. So that's the two kind of distractions, the good and the bad. So the things that you don't need that you do, we talked about that, checking email, social media, TV. Set yourself up a scheduled time and stick to it, and don't do any more than that. Now, other things are things that are maintenance, or things that, the other half of that, things that have to be done are these other things like Starbucks, golf, hiking, working out. Some people say, oh, well, if you're poor, or don't have any money, don't drink Starbucks because you're spending too much money. I don't want to say that because I heard someone put it very eloquently. She said she had a client who she coaches who wouldn't give up Starbucks. And she went for 2 years, same time, got an $8 Starbucks and drank it. And she said then one day she was drinking that Starbucks and she had a thought out of the blue. It changed her whole life. It made whatever she was doing work. It was the technique of the thing that made her business thrive, and it just was skyrocketed. So I'm not going to tell you not to do something. I'm going to say look at what you do and put a money amount to it and how it makes you feel. If it makes you feel great and you're paying a lot of money, do it. If it don't make you feel great and you're paying a lot of money, don't do it. If it makes you feel great and it doesn't cost you nothing, do that all the time. So that's what I mean, kind of get into that stuff. Those are things that might feed your mind, Go ahead and do those. You can farm out a lot of busy work with Fiverr and other things. I used to mow my own lawn. Thought that was great. Exercise and all that. Really, I'm just spending 2-3 hours a week cutting grass, and you're always spending $400 for a lawnmower and gas and all this stuff. And I'd start to mow and something would break and I'd have to go fix it and it would be all day. So I pay this dude and he does a great job and I'm just creating that whole time or using that time for myself. Repetitive tasks that don't require problem solving, that's what you have to farm out. If you're at work, delegate that out. That's good for someone else. If it's something you don't do well, like if you're trying to do an ad and you don't have a graphic design, then let somebody do it for you. Pay them a little bit. It's worth your money. Build your environment to keep other distractions, self-distractions out. People, the phone, things like that. Set up new places to work. Set up systems to keep people away from you. Now you have to let them in, but they're going to like that too because they're going to know I need to get something straight and get an agenda to have that. And then the other thing is time savers. Use templates. Buy inexpensive pre-prepared items you can use for your work. We talked about food and bills. Put that aside. And, you need time aside to do nothing. Not to even create. Just to be a vegetable. I do. Sometimes I'll ride my bike to the park. I'll park the bike. And I'll go sitting under a tree. I'm not thinking about music. I'm not thinking about creating. I don't care. I just need to sit there. I look at the birds, go out in the woods and look up in the trees. Sometimes you need that. And again, some of that stuff you do. In other words, remove the what do I do? What am I going to do now? Anytime you ask yourself that, you need to schedule that thing. And you can, the day before, you can make that schedule for the next day at night. And here's a trick I saw. I heard two stories. One was that Henry Ford had built a huge River Rouge complex. It was the biggest complex of machinery and factory in the world. Back in the olden times, even before me. And he had these new machines come in and people put them in and one part of the factory got shut down. Nobody could fix it. So we hired a guy who went in there for about an hour and then suddenly he pulled a couple levers and adjusted one thing and it took about 5 minutes. Everything was working great. And Henry Ford said, okay, well, how much owe you? He said, it's $10,000. He said, $10,000, this was in the time, this was in the 30s and 40s, so $10,000 was probably like, $250,000 now. And he said, I'm not going to pay you that. How do you value your time for $250,000? He said, well, sir, it's not the time we value. And Henry Ford said, well, you just pulled one lever. And the guy said, yes, but I knew which one to pull. So see, he's being paid for his expertise. So do that one thing and take out that what do I do? And get yourself down to where you can go in and do that one thing that really makes a big difference. What's the saying? There's maintaining the ship and there's making it go faster. You want to pay others to maintain the ship. You want to make the decisions and think about how to make the ship go faster. So another way about list is you make a list on just a piece of paper or your phone, 10 things. You can start with 5 things, but I would do 10. Order them in order of importance. And then the next day start with number 1 and don't quit until you've finished it. And then go to number 2. Now you might not get off 1 the first day or the second day or the third day. And when you do, you put number 2 in number 1, or if something's changed, you put it in number 1. Now, you might need to set number 1 aside for a while if you need to go get an education or you need to hire a person and you don't have them. Make that a priority, but that's the only reason. Otherwise, finish that sucker. That's one of the ways to really be super productive, is to do things like that. So, if you have any suggestions on how to deal with distractions, let me know. If my podcast has been nothing but a big distraction to you, let me know. I'd like to know that. I'd like to make it better. Look up these people: Don Byers, Zoe Keating, Peter Holland, Scott Bradley, and see what they're doing. Maybe they're doing something you do.